Skill 3 is about parameterized URLs. First, we'll go to the project folder, then we'll open up the files to view the app code. This is the same code from Skill 2, but we won't make any changes to this file, only this file. The next step is to add parameterization. Parameters are added through the URL. We'll add our first parameter here. Parameters start with a colon, and we'll add the parameter here. Then we'll change the response. To access parameters, we'll need the request variable. We'll access the parameters here. Now we'll start the server. We'll use nodemon because we'll be making changes to the code. Nodemon skill 3. We'll use postman to send the parameters, and the first request we'll be sending is the read request. If we send the request without parameters, we get an error. But if we pass in a user ID, the response is, get request was successful, and here's the user ID. Now we'll add a parameter that'll take in a phone number. But we want to make sure that it only takes numbers. To do that, we add this, which is regex, or regular expression, that checks for only numbers. We'll add the parameter here, and change the response here. Since we'll be using the request variable again, let's remove the underscore and access the parameter here, making sure that this matches the parameter name up here. This time, we'll test the create request. If we send the request without parameters, we get an error. If we put in a phone number with letters and send the request, we still get an error. But if we only send numbers, the response is, post request was successful, and here's the phone number. Next, we'll take in multiple parameters. Here, we'll take in two parameters separated by a dash, and we'll use the parameters here, and change the request here. Here, we'll access the first parameter, and here, we'll access the second parameter. We'll send the update request to test those parameters. Again, if we don't send any parameters, we get an error. If we send the wrong number of parameters, we get an error. But if we send two parameters separated by a dash, then we get a response. Put request was successful. The start was 123, the end was 789. Now we'll test multiple parameters using the period as a separator. Here we're taking in three parameters: first, middle, and last. We'll use those parameters here. and change the response here. Lastly, we'll send the delete request. If we put in the parameters separated by dashes, we should get an error. And here it is. But if we separate our parameters with periods and send the request, here's the response. Delete request was successful. First is alpha, middle is phi, last is omega.